is a production of DallasCowboys.com and the Dallas Cowboys Football Club.
How about them Cowboys?
Breaking Cowboys news.
And welcome into a special All-Star Roundtable podcast to discuss breaking news of the last 24 hours. The Cowboys announcing Sunday night that Jason Garrett will not return as head coach in 2020, and reports not confirmed by the team at this point that say Mike McCarthy is the choice to replace him. Nothing official yet, but hey, we're here for the next hour anyway, so why not just kick it around?
Might be official in an hour.
It
Give
could
it
be.
an hour.
We'll know noon Central Time if we got anything
Stay on
new.
your Twitter account, Dave.
You got it, Mick.
Dave's got the computer
He
fired
doesn't
up.
need you to tell him that.
It's true.
He's on
It's
it.
okay.
Computer, phone, he's always ready. That's Dave Hellman, Mickey Spagnola, Nick Eatman, Rob Phillips here for the next hour. Well, we waited for a week for news, and then we got it during the Eagles wild card playoff game.
Yeah, more than
all
we
things.
could bargain for. Like, literally waited a week for news, found out about coaching interviews before we found out about the last one leaving. Then we finally, during an Eagles game, no less. Can't convince me that's an accident.
No.
There's just no way.
A lot of Cowboy fans were probably really excited, like right there, like in the halftime. Jason, okay, finally gone, because I know a lot of Cowboy fans are excited about that. And then the Eagles losing. I mean, there you go.
It's a nice Sunday afternoon. It's a nice, maybe not as nice as if they'd been hosting the Seahawks themselves, but
Yeah.
not bad. And then, obviously, it's just reports. The team has not made a statement or confirmed or denied anything, but it sounds like they have chosen their coach. We'll see. But, I mean, the fact that it looks like they're going ahead with Mike McCarthy 12 hours after letting go of Jason Garrett is pretty stunning to me, honestly.
Well, let's go around the table and talk about those reports. And reportedly, Mike McCarthy came in for an interview over the weekend. Marvin Lewis, former longtime Bengals coach, was also in for an interview. But reports this morning, Mick, that they've zeroed in on McCarthy, the longtime former Packers head coach who won a Super Bowl inside AT&T Stadium during the 2010 season, I believe.
There you go.
10 years ago?
10 years ago.
What does that mean?
I just threw it out. It's 10 years ago.
Okay. All right.
The same year that Jason Garrett, ironically,
Yeah, and by the
became
way,
head coach here.
Do you think Jerry, sly as a fox, wanted something in writing for a new head coach before he let the old head coach go? Officially?
I hope not, but it sounded like he might have, but I hope not.
Right? Like, was he worried that he wasn't going to find something that he really wanted?
That
I'm just asking. I threw it out there.
Well, that's what Jacksonville, I think, did. I mean, I don't think Jacksonville thought there was a lot of great coaches out there, so they went with Doug Marrone.
They stuck with him, right?
And that's, I think, what Jerry was saying, but it's a different situation here. I hope that's not what happened, but I think that there's something to that, Mick. I think he really was looking to see, all right, I've got the 14th, I've got this date, and I'm going to go and look and see. And, the bad part about that is that obviously Garrett can't go and do that.
Right.
I don't think. Maybe he could have.
Or maybe he gave him the opportunity.
Yeah.
Who knows?
If he had an opportunity to go interview somewhere else before this was made official on Sunday that he's not returning,
Yeah.
would you imagine they would have let him do that? But he was asked, the last time he spoke publicly, Jason did, was on 105.3 The Fan a week ago. And he said, when you meet with the Joneses, would you like to establish that you still want to be the coach? And he said, oh, yeah.
Yeah.
It's the job he wants. It's the job he's always wanted.
He said it after the game.
Yeah.
Which maybe, and you know what? That's none of Jerry's concern. Like he owns the team and he had Jason under contract, so he can do what he wants. But if that was really what it's about, man, that's awkward. Like I was just thinking last night, like Mike McCarthy, interviewed over the weekend. The report is that he stayed an extra night here in Dallas, and it was a whole weekend long thing. Like, did they take him into Jason's office? Like, even though Jason's still the coach, like, was Jason here? Like, hey, man, remember how you helped me get the Cowboys job? And remember how you might be replacing me now? Like, that's just
Remember when you
strange.
threw that challenge flag on Dez, caught that ball, and it screwed everything up for us?
It
Remember
is.
that?
It's really interesting how their careers are intertwined. Like,
In big games.
McCarthy beats the Cowboys 45-7, setting up Jason Garrett to get the job. Obviously, McCarthy derailed both of Garrett's best seasons of his Cowboys tenure.
I hadn't even thought about the 2010 game.
Yeah. Mike McCarthy's Packers got Jason Garrett this job in the first place.
Wade Phillips' last game as head coach.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Yeah.
Mike McCarthy, I mean, we're not probably sitting here if the Cowboys don't lose that game to the Packers in 2016.
Yeah.
And
2014.
14 too, but
16 stung a little bit more, though, just because you were at home, you had home field advantage.
And the way you lost it, right?
Yeah.
With time expiring.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. But, I mean, you can make the case. I mean, some of the greatest coaches of all time, I bet you most of the great coaches of all time have a Hall of Fame quarterback with them. I mean, that's just the way it goes. And so, a lot of people will say, well, yeah, we had Aaron Rodgers. Okay. Well, I mean, all these guys had somebody. Belichick's had Brady and Landry and Noel, and all those guys have had Hall of Fame guys. So I don't know if you can say that it's just that or not. I mean, he's the offensive coach, and they had some really good players. I know this. They would rotate a lot of receivers in there, guys that you wouldn't think would be, starting caliber guys, and next thing you know, they're in the Pro Bowl. Whether or not that's just Aaron Rodgers, I'm not sure, but I mean, I'm sure he has a big part of it.
What year did McCarthy get there?
06.
06.
He was there from 06 to 2018, through 2018 season. Went 125 and 77 and 2 with 9 playoff appearances. Mentioned that Super Bowl. Also 4 NFC title games. And by the way, he's one of 4 coaches, including the great Tom Landry, to make 8 straight playoff appearances throughout his tenure from 2009
Did he have Favre too?
He did for 2 seasons.
2 seasons?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, that's great stuff. I mean, that's what I think that they're looking at here. I believe that Jerry, Steven, Will McClay look at this and go, you know what? We've got a roster of players. They believe that. Now, we can argue all day how great it really is, but they feel like they've got a talented roster that maybe needs to be, coached better. And here's a guy that's done it. And I don't think you can say all that and say, well, it's because of Aaron Rodgers. I don't believe that.
That's going to be the debate about this hire. If that is the hire, it certainly looks like it is.
Once again, reports say that it's
trying to cover
close.
Our bases here.
Yeah, but nothing official from the team yet.
But that's going to be the debate is, how much of it is Mike McCarthy, how much of it is Aaron Rodgers. As always, I think the truth is somewhere in the middle. Having a quarterback of that caliber certainly helps you, but it's hard to reach the postseason that many times in a row. It's hard to win 10 playoff games. I don't think you can take all the credit out of Mike McCarthy's hands for that, but I certainly think the quarterback plays a role in that. And I think you're absolutely right. Like this feels like a win now hire. Like this is a team. Like Jerry doesn't want to do that learning curve thing all over again if this is his guy. And that, bringing in the analogy you mentioned at the top of the show, my dear friend Alyssa Cowie gave this to me, and I'm the Cowboys beat writer, but I thought it was an awesome analogy. It was like Mike McCarthy is Zach Martin. Go back to 2014, they had the choice between Johnny Manziel and Zach Martin. Like, that's what it was down to. Flashy guy, you don't know if it's going to work, mercurial talent, could take you to another level, could flame out spectacularly. And in this analogy, obviously, that's like a Lincoln Riley or an Urban Meyer. And then you have a very proven, solid guy that's not going to just make everybody excited. Like, the draft party's not going to go insane when you draft Zach Martin, but it's a very stable, safe, smart hire. And I know, like, Zach Martin's going to go to the Hall of Fame. I get that. We don't know if McCarthy's going to work out that well, but I think there's something to that.
Well, there's probably more to that analogy. I don't know if there's some implying going on there, but there's more to that analogy because if you remember, everyone knows that Jerry wanted Manziel.
Yeah, Jerry didn't want the safe
And
player.
what happened?
Yeah.
Steven had to go in there and say, listen, and all the other scouts and everyone, coaches didn't want it either, but Steven had to go and be the one to say, we got to do this. And I think from what I've been hearing, I think that something similar was happening here. I really do. I think Jerry had a hard time letting go of Garrett, and I don't know if it's just Steven or whatever, but I think there's other people that were like, listen, we got to make a move here. And so it was tough. The same thing happened with DeMarcus Ware. I mean, Jerry told DeMarcus Ware that he was coming back, and then he wasn't. So, I mean, that happens.
I do know, though, and you might be right, Jerry was quoted. It was right after the Big 12 title game because Matt Rule and Lincoln Riley were both coaching here. And he was like, college to pro is like the hardest transition. Like, that's the least likely to breed you success, which I thought was interesting at the time because obviously Jimmy Johnson came straight from college. But he's right in the sense that like hotshot college coaches don't have a great track record in the NFL. So maybe somebody put that idea in his head, but eventually I think he came to that conclusion that that's a big risk.
Well, do you think that wasn't what he was thinking? He should have been thinking this way. Why do you want to bring in a head coach to practice on your dime? That's never been a head coach. That doesn't have any NFL experience.
I mean, again.
Again.
Because, I mean, they did it, obviously.
Yeah, but look at where they were in '89. That's not the same thing.
Jason.
Oh, well, okay, yeah.
Are you talking about like a college coach?
I'm just saying now a college coach, yes.
Yeah.
And make that transition.
Gotcha.
Or bring in a coordinator to practice on your time.
But that's the risk, right? Like for every time it doesn't work out, there's a Sean McVay who like had barely been a coordinator who got his team to a Super Bowl.
Okay, who else? See, that's my point.
I mean,
right?
Matt LaFleur's doing it in Green Bay right now. I mean, it happens.
Right.
It's not like it's impossible.
Andy Reid, at some point, these guys never had head coaching experience, and then they did. But I guess he was in the NFL for a while. I'm trying to think of another college guy that's come straight from college. Now, this franchise has a history of it, though. They do. Jimmy came in and everything changed. Now,
but that was different. They were failing, and you got a new owner, right? And they were terrible.
Well, Switzer, I mean...
Yeah, Switzer was...
Actually, Switzer came in on a team that was ready to win, right?
He was Queen Elizabeth.
Okay.
I don't get that reference. Sorry.
He was the monarch.
A figurehead?
The queen doesn't run the country, right?
Now,
gotcha.
Jim Harbaugh. I don't know if you can say Pete Carroll's in that category because he was an NFL head coach, then went to college and
but
came
he
back.
was out of the game for a long time.
Yeah.
He was in college for a while.
There is precedent for it, but to your point, Jerry was asked about college coaches kind of dancing around. This is when Jason still had the job late in the season, and he mentioned that college coaches, the track record is not good. Mm-hmm. And I think Nick's right. They feel like this is a roster that should have done more than it did this year. That's young, but has talent and won 10 games and got to the second round 2 years ago.
I guess I was just arguing with you, Mick, but I feel like I'm coming around to that point of view. Is like I was intrigued by the Lincoln Rileys of the world. Like, yeah, like maybe this won't work out, but maybe it could take you to a level unprecedented, at least in recent memory. But then you look at everything McCarthy has done in his career. You look at what he's accomplished. You look at his experience in the league. He hasn't just worked with Aaron Rodgers and Brett Favre. He got some good seasons out of Aaron Brooks in New Orleans. He was in San Francisco for a year. Like, he's got a lot of experience. And then going back to Aaron Rodgers, does not Mike McCarthy deserve some credit for developing him in the early going of his career? I mean, he didn't come out of the womb as the best quarterback in the league.
Yeah, because if you remember, they played against Brett Favre under Mike McCarthy in 2007 here at Texas Stadium.
And Aaron Rodgers had his coming up.
Yeah.
And then they took off
second
from there.
half.
Yeah.
And so for all of those reasons, and that's why I think the Zach Martin thing is such a good analogy, because this is not sexy, but neither was that. But if he does his job and learns from his experiences in Green Bay the way that people think he can, it could be a heck of a hire.
Well, and it's also very similar to Wade Phillips as well. But back in 2007, when you're like, okay, this team was, close, and, that 2006 team and Parcells took them pretty far.
Yeah.
But then, they were ready to kind of move forward, and they just needed a different voice. And I think a lot of the players actually liked what Wade brought as opposed to Bill. It's different, but they needed Bill. That's the tricky part here, is that they needed that from 2003 to 2006. That team was ready to go. Not that Wade took them over the top. He certainly didn't, but neither did Bill. I mean, nobody has really.
It was almost like a breath of fresh air, like they needed some relief. And actually, that's what happened from Jimmy to Switzer.
At the time,
yeah. Jimmy was grinding that team, and they needed a breath of fresh air. So Switzer comes in, and he's kind of an opposite coach. And the same thing happened with Wade. Now, we'll see what happens here, but think about it. If the premise was he didn't want to bring in a college coach, or he didn't want to bring in a coordinator to practice being a head coach, from a guy with head coaching experience that hadn't been out of the game that long, who were the other candidates? I don't want somebody that's been out 5 years. They're going to come in because they forget how hard you have to work to be successful.
It sounds to me, and I don't know everything that went on this last year, but it sounds to me that what McCarthy did in 2019 could be the reason that he's hired just as much as anybody else, as anything else he's done.
He stayed with it, right?
Do you guys know a little bit more of that story?
Why don't we take a break and get into it when we come back? Because it's a really interesting story, and Tom Pelissero of NFL Network did a big feature on him and what he did, Mike McCarthy did in his year off from football. Again, reports that the Cowboys are zeroing in on Mike McCarthy to replace Jason Garrett. Nothing confirmed yet, but we'll continue the discussion next when we come back.
Essilor is a proud sponsor of the Dallas Cowboys, helping fans see more and do more with our best vision solutions. Our lens technologies reveal a world more beautiful than you can imagine. For a limited time, get the Essilor Next Gen offer. When you buy the latest generation of Transitions lenses with select Essilor lenses, you can choose a second pair of clear lenses for free with qualifying frame purchases. Restrictions apply. Find a participating eye care professional by visiting EssilorUSA.com. Essilor. See more, do more.
Ready? Okay. Give me an S. S. Give me an O. O. Give me an S. S. Give me an O. O. What's that spell? So. Are we gonna win?
Not if we play like we cheer.
Just okay is not okay. Whether it's cheerleaders or your wireless network, AT&T is America's best wireless network. Best network based on GWS 1 score September 2019.
Want to use what the pros use? How about the official men's skincare brand of the Dallas Cowboys, Jack Black? Right now, you can get the Jack Black Starter, a curated collection of Cowboys locker room favorites for just $10 with free shipping. The starter includes 4 Jack Black skincare favorites, plus a full-sized intense therapy lip balm. Go to getjackblack.com/Cowboys and use the code word TEAMJB. That's getjackblack.com/Cowboys. The Jack Black Starter, $10, free shipping.
Do you want the most interesting, up-to-the-minute Dallas Cowboys news straight from the Star in Frisco? How about exclusive and on command? That's right, news and nuggets you can't find anywhere else. With our exclusive Cowboys content on Alexa, you can have all the answers, secrets, stories, and more. What's Stephen Jones thinking during a game? What's Joe Looney's favorite pregame meal? We take your questions to Cowboys players and coaches, and you can hear the answers directly back to you. Just say, Alexa, open Dallas Cowboys.
I'm Jay Novacek, former tight end for the Dallas Cowboys. Back in the day, I was the guy who always got the tough yards, and that's why I run with John Deere today. In fact, I have a John Deere 3025E tractor that can handle any yard work I need to do, even the tough yards way out back. So if you have 1 acre or 1,000, John Deere has the equipment that's just right for you. Visit a John Deere dealer today and run with us. We are the official tractor provider of your Dallas Cowboys.
Breaking Cowboys news.
Welcome back inside the SWBC Mortgage Studio, inside the Star in Frisco. Oh, so much going on this week. What happened to last week?
You were complaining all last week because we were just sitting around waiting.
We had crickets last week, didn't we?
It's either all or nothing, just like the TV show. Everything or nothing.
I don't know.
You like this music?
Yeah.
Should we add it to one of the podcasts?
It just seems like breaking news or Beverly Hills Cop 4 or something like that. But I mean, it seems like, you got the horn going off. It's like
big stuff happens here.
That's right.
That's what they say.
Reportedly, anyway. Well, we know Jason Garrett is not coming back. The press release from the Cowboys last night that they will not seek a contract extension with Jason after 9 full years as the head coach. And now, 12 hours later, we get reports that Mike McCarthy might be on his way to town.
All of the all of the reflection pieces on the Garrett era went out the window because you're still digesting the news. You're like, we saw this coming, but it finally happened. But then before you can even really get your ducks in a row on that, we're on to potentially hiring the next head coach. Sorry, Jason.
Life comes at you fast.
It really does.
Yeah. All right, Nick. We broke the last segment teasing what Mike McCarthy has been up to the last 12 months since he parted ways with the Packers after the 2018 season. Pretty interesting stuff.
Yeah, I alluded to it. I'm probably not the right person for it because I haven't read it all. Have y'all actually read that story? Okay. But basically, he spent last year, and he's got a team of coaches that it's very reminiscent to like what John Gruden was doing, even though he was out of coaching, he was still like evaluating tape and players, and it looked like that McCarthy had assembled a team of coaches to really study the game, not be away from the players, the draft guys, and then also really taking analytics into equation as well, and just making sure that they don't stay too far out of this mix here and stay kind of up to date with everything that's happening in the NFL.
Yeah, I mean he's been camped out at his place near Green Bay. Bunch of other coaches have been part of it with him. Jim Haslett, who he goes way back with, and I don't know. Part of me is intrigued and impressed because he talks about like embracing analytics and embracing a lot of the changes that have taken over football in the last 10 years. Part of me is also like, man, this is a hell of a PR stunt, and this story dropped. Tom Pelissero, who's a great reporter for NFL Network, it came out in like early December, which is right around the time where jobs are starting to kind of align and you kind of have an idea of what's going to be open. Good for him, man.
He interviewed for every job, right? Every job that's been open, he interviewed for.
I don't know if he actually took those interviews.
Reportedly, Browns, Giants, and Panthers.
Okay, so
he was at least linked to those jobs.
Yeah, he was. I know that.
The Redskins, I think.
Oh, yeah. He didn't do the Redskins.
Use the media to your advantage. That was something that I never thought Jason Garrett did a good enough job of. Like he just wanted to do his thing. He wasn't gonna, play in the media, and it's admirable in its own right. But like, you can use the media to your advantage, and I definitely think Mike McCarthy did that.
Here's a blurb from the story, just real quick, that Tom Pelissero wrote. Dave mentioned this kind of unofficial coaching staff that he put together in the offseason. He said together they've spent months preparing as if they're the 33rd coaching staff, from studying league trends and rebuilding playbooks to deep dives on analytics, like Nick said, and mapping out a calendar for practices and meetings all the way through training camp. McCarthy also did a deep dive on himself, going through boxes dating to his early days as an assistant at Pittsburgh and with the Chiefs to study how his philosophies have evolved over the past 30 years and where he needs to go from here.
Nick Saban know about that? I thought Alabama was the 33rd NFL team.
Yeah.
No.
So having said that,
not this year. Sorry.
Does he know who his defensive coordinator is going to be?
Sounds like Jim Haslett was.
Yeah. No, I wonder though. Like,
I hope not.
I wonder if they have this whole thing in Green Bay and they're the 33rd staff, but Mike McCarthy gets this call and he's like,
sorry guys,
appreciate your help, y'all.
Got a new staff.
I get to take 2.
Yeah, seriously, he's like, I only got 2 tickets. I have a hard time believing that staff is not coming here in full.
I don't know. You're at the national title game next week.
Yeah,
I got 2 tickets to Paradise.
Don't remind me.
Yeah, you got to figure it out, don't you?
Defensive coordinator. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if he's already been interviewed.
That's kind of
well. I would imagine when you interview, that's one of the questions they ask you.
Marvin Lewis. We're talking Marvin Lewis here.
No, I'm talking Mike McCarthy. Who's your defensive coordinator?
Nick was implying.
I'm implying
I know
Marvin
what you're
Lewis,
implying,
yeah.
and I could see that happening also if that's who he wants.
I know what people think, and they can't be 100% wrong because you have to interview a minority coach before you can hire anyone, and they did that right off the bat. But I'm telling you that Marvin Lewis was not just strictly Rooney Rule. I promise you, he's not.
And if it wasn't, then if it's not for that, what you're suggesting, it's let me pick your brain about defense.
Right.
And then you know what you're looking for
right.
if it's not him. But that occurred to me also.
Well, Marvin Lewis has been a head coach in the NFL for almost 20 years.
Yeah.
Right? With one spot, taking the Bengals to multiple playoff appearances. I mean, he's a qualified, outstanding coach who, by the way, has a Super Bowl ring for defense with maybe definitely one of the greatest defenses we've ever seen in Baltimore in 2000.
Yeah, he was the defense coordinator of that Ravens team, but it has to be said that he did not win a playoff.
I'm going to say if you're and his credentials are fantastic and that's great, but if you're taking it at face value that they were interviewing him to be the head coach, he couldn't take his team to the round that Jason Garrett couldn't get past. And that just was never going to sit well with Cowboys fans.
No.
He couldn't get out of the wild card round, and it wasn't like he was always getting into the wild card round at 9-7 either. He went one and done with some 12-4 teams in Cincinnati.
If I remember correctly, Jason Garrett might have been the first guy to interview back in 2007. If it wasn't him, it was 3 guys on the staff already, the Todd Bowles and I believe Sperano maybe.
He was certainly hired before Wade.
He was hired, but I'm just saying he was interviewed for the head coaching job and became an assistant, obviously the offensive coordinator. So maybe that happens. I don't know though. I don't know if McCarthy, Marvin Lewis. I don't know if that works there. But
it's neither do I. But man, that would be some next level maneuvering by Jerry Jones if you interview a candidate that satisfies the Rooney Rule, hire Mike McCarthy, and then slot Marvin Lewis in as his defensive coordinator. And it's funny because any fan will say, you can't hire Marvin Lewis to be your head coach, but will immediately be like, Marvin Lewis as the DC, you got me listening now.
Just like Wade Phillips.
Exactly. A veteran guy with skins on the wall. He's coached Ray Lewis. He's coached Ed Reed. He won a Super Bowl with the greatest defense of all time, blah, 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 blah. That sounds awfully intriguing to me when you think about this defense having a lot on talent and not a lot on leadership.
And there's another point. He's available.
Yeah, very available.
Because when you put a staff together, you may have all these guys you like. They may not be available. So, right now, name me an available defensive coordinator that you would sink your teeth into, and that's hard to.
Yeah, I mean,
where's
I
Mike
wouldn't even know
Nolan?
where to start.
Mike Nolan.
That is a name that has
available.
kind of.
He is available,
Well,
right?
he's on the Saints staff. I don't think
he's a linebacker.
But he's
coach.
a linebackers coach.
Yeah, but that being a defensive coordinator, we've talked about this before. I mean, you could be quality control, and as long as you're not getting offered as the head coach, you're still under contract.
Right.
And you have to look at what his contract is.
Yeah.
And that's never public. Although Mike Nolan's name has gotten thrown out there. McCarthy worked for him for a year when he was the 49ers head coach. I don't see any other corresponding moves. But, I mean, obviously a longtime defensive coach in this league.
His dad was coach here, right?
Yeah.
Dick Nolan. Yeah.
So there's ties there.
The late great Dick Nolan.
That's going to be that. I mean, and again, for the 18th time, nothing official has been announced.
No.
It certainly sounds like McCarthy's going to be the 9th head coach of the Cowboys, but it's not official. But if it is, the next question is, what does that mean about this staff? Because for all the guys that are out of contract, there's just as many that are under contract. Several of whom I think Jerry Jones probably wants to keep around.
Yeah.
And is Mike McCarthy willing to play ball with that? And this is just me spitballing.
If this deal gets done, then we'll find out pretty quickly.
I just have this gut feeling that there at least two names come to mind immediately: Kellen Moore and John Kitna. And I just feel like I wonder if Mike McCarthy kind of had to acquiesce and say, if I'm going to be your head coach, I'm willing to play ball and keep those guys around.
Well, there's nothing wrong with Kitna being your quarterback coach, right?
Sure.
And if you think about what some of these other head coaches are doing, you can keep Kellen Moore to do all the coordinator work, and then you're the guy on game day, sort of the way Bill did it. He had coordinators. They weren't coordinators. Bill called the plays.
He had a passing game and a running game coordinator.
Yeah.
And Peyton, Haley.
And there's nothing wrong
Maurice
with
Carthon.
having a young guy kind of do all the legwork during the week, and you're freed up. That's what people are doing, right?
I mean, and McCarthy was the Packers play caller for most, if not all, of his tenure there.
I looked this up. There was 1 year in 2015.
He gave it up.
He gave it up to Tom Clements, and I looked up the stats. They were 23rd in total offense, 15th in scoring, and he took it back.
You only had to say 1 year. I knew that if you did it for 1 year.
Well, if you remember 2014, they were on the cusp of the Super Bowl again. Had an error on special teams, I believe.
Yeah, dropped an onside kick.
You keep saying that.
Yeah, I do.
You keep mentioning the dropped onside kick,
Yeah, I
but
do.
you don't ever bring up the 13-point lead in the fourth quarter that just dwindled away. Actually, I think it was bigger than that.
No.
That's honestly, and like I said,
all you got to do is fall on the ball when you're in the Super Bowl.
all you got to do is coach a better fourth quarter, and you win that game comfortably. That's honestly.
Well, all the officials have to do is see that Dez caught that ball, and they're not even in that game.
And that's a different conversation.
That's a much different conversation.
No, I want to go back and look at this.
But my point is, they lost that game, and I think
it was 19-7 with 11 minutes to play.
The word was that after that loss, he wanted to be more of a walk-around guy to kind of keep the pulse of everything. And the offense wasn't what it normally was. With a healthy Aaron Rodgers in 2015, he took it back. So, yeah, he has been, by and large, I believe, the play caller in Green Bay for many years.
I mean, I bet Sean Payton has an offensive coordinator. Do you think
He
that
does.
guy's
Pete Carmichael.
got anything more than just a title? Because he's doing it. So you would need somebody to do that, and you need probably somebody on the staff to retain that has some connection to the team you have.
Yeah, I remember Wade Phillips said that several years ago when he joined the staff. He said, coaches will always do that. You never just wipe out the entire staff, because what happens is that you end up making the same mistakes on these guys. So it is good to have a couple of holdovers to say, all right, tell me about him. And if not, because you're just going to go, well, this guy looks great. What's the problem? And they kind of have some history there.
And the perception's already out there that Jerry's going to force these coaches on Mike McCarthy.
But I wouldn't view it as forcing.
No.
It's kind of like Matt Rule turned down the Jets job last year because he didn't want that. And if McCarthy does sign a contract to be the Cowboys coach, it's because he agreed in principle that he's okay with whatever is going to remain over from the last staff. I would assume he's not going to sign on to a job without having a pretty clear idea of what Jerry wants to do with the staff.
And I'm sure, and also when coaches interview for jobs, they've always got a short list of who they would hire and who they want. So I'm sure that, that's part of the discussion here.
Yeah.
Oh, that's the first question they ask you during the interview.
Yeah.
It's like, what kind of staff are you going to put together?
And basically, I think it's the other way around too. I think that the coach asks, how many guys do I get? I know that's what happens in college. You're like, all right, go to this place, I can take 4 with me. I can go to this place, I can take 7. So I bet you Mike McCarthy has a number of how many people he can take and which guys are going to stay. Where I wonder is if at all, but where or how does Jason Witten factor in here? Because, he could be a coach on staff. I mean, from what I've been told about Witten is that, he wanted to be a head coach somewhere, and he still might. But if he has the opportunity to go and learn from some people, some veterans, and this would be one of those cases, maybe he's got a role somewhere. Maybe it's tight ends coach.
I believe Doug Nussmeier is out of contract.
Yes, he is.
So,
well...
And Witt hasn't announced what he wants to do.
No.
But he has said that at some point in his future, he would like to get into coaching. His grandfather did it. His brother's doing it.
I was actually on a similar line. I was thinking, because McCarthy obviously was in Green Bay forever. They drafted Randall Cobb while he was there. So a lot of people kind of tie those, connect those dots like, oh, maybe this helps their chances of bringing back Randall Cobb. Mike McCarthy's also from Pittsburgh, which is where Sean Lee is from. And I don't think they really have a history together, but I was like, damn.
You connecting those dots.
I'm just reaching, just grabbing at straws right now. Why not? I don't know.
No, that's interesting. That's interesting.
Well, I mean, I think there's going to be a new linebackers coach.
That's true. Ben Bloom is out of contract, I believe.
The team doesn't tell you. They don't announce these coach contracts really like they do players. But that's the reports, I think.
Probably need to hire the defensive coordinator before we hire the linebacker.
I was going to say, there's going to be, if this...
That's how Mick would do it.
You would think.
You would think this sounds like it should be official by midweek. And if that's the case, then you get the ball rolling. I mean, I said last night that I would be surprised if they went to the Senior Bowl without a head coach. Obviously, that definitely looks like they're going to have a head coach when they go to the Senior Bowl. But let's say they finalize this Wednesday. That gives them almost 2 weeks before they even go to Mobile. I would assume they'll have a pretty finalized staff by the time they get to Mobile.
I think it would be an advantage to do that.
Yeah.
And if this does get done, and again, it's not official, maybe we shouldn't be surprised that it's taken a few days because, Jason was in the final year of his deal. There was not a commitment to him beyond 2019, so you had to know Jerry and Steven had a short list of what they wanted to do, contingency plans if this didn't work out. And obviously it was a disappointing finish to the season.
Well, they should have if they were doing their due diligence.
Right.
You got to have a list just in case. And
I think
would imagine they did.
I think that's what weirded people out, though. And I think y'all's theory sounds right, that they didn't want to just step out on Jason Garrett until they had a good contingency plan in place. But I think most people would say is at this point, it needed to be somebody different. Even it just
Either
needed
way,
to be another guy. Even if you didn't get the Mike McCarthy, you just got to try something new. So the thought that, let's say if the Panthers had snatched Mike McCarthy out from under you on Friday, you're really just gonna meet with Jason again and be like, all right, let's run this thing back. Like, that doesn't sound like a good idea at all.
No, and I think Mike McCarthy is probably, some fan bases, and there's some fans out there that aren't really that excited about it. But, I think that he's walking into a good situation because for the most part, like you said, just anybody new is what fans will want. And so if this guy's done it, and he's actually been to the place that Garrett couldn't go, in the championship game, obviously Super Bowl.
I'm sure there are people out there that don't like it, but I think most people are probably at least okay with it for a lot of the reasons that we've already talked about. Is like, he doesn't have to learn on the job, like Mick pointed out. He's been here before. He can command authority in the locker room. He's obviously, with whatever you say about Rodgers, like, he's gotten his team deep into the playoffs. And so with a roster like this, you can just plug and go. And if it doesn't work, then 2-3 years from now, you're like, well, let's start this thing over. But it'll be a drastically different team by that point. You know what I mean?
Yeah, older team for sure. Most playoff wins since 2006 for coaches. Bill Belichick has 20. The next guy is John Harbaugh and Mike McCarthy at 10. So, like you guys said, he has done it. And the thing, Dave, I know you're talking about college coaches and guys that have a lot of bright ideas that would be interesting candidates. But to me, if they hire McCarthy, they're getting that, but they're getting the experience with it. Because I said this on our joint podcast last week. If you're going to move on from Jason Garrett, you're going to pay Dak Prescott a lot of money one way or another this year, whether it's the franchise tag or a long-term deal. He's coming back. You got to get every penny out of that. You got to make sure he can reach another level than what he did this year, which was a terrific season, 30 touchdown passes, almost a franchise record in passing yards. That's my opinion. It would be your main investment to get as much as you can out of Dak. And I don't know if there's a better guy out there to do that than McCarthy based on his resume.
So you guys talked about McCarthy being with Aaron Rodgers or Brett Favre.
Yeah.
How many did Belichick have? 20?
Say again?
Belichick, 20 playoff
wins.
Yeah, he had a pretty good one, too.
Any of those without Brady?
No.
Did he get one in Cleveland, maybe?
Oh, well, I don't think so, Mick.
I don't think anybody's going to minimize his record.
No, but then you look at Harbaugh, and Harbaugh's probably going to pass McCarthy, I would imagine. I mean, we'll see what happens in the playoffs because as we saw this past weekend, there's some good, strong parity in those top 12 teams. And, 3 road teams won?
Yeah.
And the fourth one was overtime, and Buffalo had plenty of chances to win that game, or not plenty, but they had chances.
They had enough.
They had enough chances to win. That was a good game. And so what I'm saying is, going back to Harbaugh, he's won with Flacco. I guess is that it?
Dilfer.
He
was he there? No, he wasn't the head coach.
That was Billick.
It was. It's been Flacco. They got to the playoffs last year, but they lost to the Chargers, I believe.
Yeah.
I don't know if he's won a game without Flacco yet. I'd have to look.
But he's a guy that's totally reinvented himself in terms of embracing analytics, they say.
And also, nobody in their right mind is putting Flacco in the conversation with Rodgers and Brady either.
Well, no. He had a heck of a playoff run in 2012.
I guess, sure. and that's I'm coming around on this idea because, to your point, McCarthy is he's got proven credentials, but you've also you've watched him, right? If you know football at all, you've watched him for a decade. He's kind of stubborn with his playbook. His late game management doesn't seem amazing. Again, kind of bungled the end of that NFC Championship game. It's all stuff that every coach does, but anybody that's watched football for the last 15 years has seen it. They've watched Packer games and they're like, oh, I don't know about this Mike McCarthy. You kind of, let's say, he's at an 8. You're getting an 8, and that's great. But then you think about, let's just, for example, use Lincoln Riley. He could be, theoretically, in your mind, he could be like the Sean McVay, who's a 10, and the entire NFL world is talking about look how Lincoln Riley has changed the game. Remember how absurd it was with Sean McVay last year? It could
everybody getting hired around the league with Kingsbury because you're looking for the next McVay.
And it could be that. And the potential is intriguing. But the risk that it doesn't pan out is obviously what scares you. And so McCarthy, like I said, it's just a steady, good hire. It's probably you're not just jumping for joy about it, but I can't knock it either.
Sorry, can y'all think of a game where Garrett kind of messed up at the end of the game and they didn't win because of late game management? Can y'all think of a specific game? I mean, I'm not saying it didn't happen. It happens. You can. There's a few losses there.
I mean, I know it's happened, but to come up with one shocking example.
Well, the one he gets accused of and wrongly was the end of the Arizona game. Remember when he called timeout?
Yeah.
But he had his
on ice.
kicking coach and his special teams coach running down the sideline yelling at him to call timeout because they got on the field late.
I think my point to that is and there's some fans out there that are this game and this game, but rarely do they ever say, well, what a great job by that coach to win that game. And 10 playoff wins for McCarthy, I guarantee you it happened, where they did a nice job
100%.
Down the stretch. And the Cowboys was one of them. I mean, and that game in 14 and in 16.
And think about it. He did his best decision in that 14 game was to challenge the catch, right? He threw a red flag.
Yep.
That won the game for him.
I'll always be annoyed about the way Garrett handled the end, coincidentally enough, the end of the 2017 Packers game. They didn't try at all.
Oh, yeah.
They didn't try at all to run time off the clock and just gave Rodgers the ball back with 48 seconds.
Which is an eternity.
So you wanted your cake and eat it too, right?
No,
you wanted to make sure you didn't lose. You also wanted to run the timeout.
That's tough. I mean, it's tough.
Look at Sean Payton yesterday, right?
Oh, Sean Payton bungled a lot of stuff in that game.
He could have spent a timeout and saved 10 seconds.
No, and that
and he
honestly
took that timeout to the locker room.
This kind of proves my point is if you've watched any coach for long enough, you've seen him screw stuff up.
Yeah. It's just that we're so close to it here. And the fans are too, because they're following their team. It's like you only see it here.
But the Packers are just like the Cowboys. If they're playing a moderately interesting game, it's going to be on national TV. They've been in the playoffs more than almost anybody over the last decade. So you've had a lot of chances to see Mike McCarthy screw stuff up. Mm-hmm. And that's... If you're not excited about this hire, that's probably why. And it doesn't mean he's a bad coach. It's just you color your opinion based on the 15% of what you see in these huge moments and not the noon kickoff against the Panthers in September.
So what's the bar for Mike McCarthy?
Why don't we talk about that when we come back?
Good tease.
Yeah. Nick with the tease. I love it. Let's talk about the bar for Mike McCarthy, if indeed he is hired as the Cowboys' next coach, next on our Roundtable podcast.
Since 1865, Stetson hats are American-made with pride right here in Texas. And Stetson is proud to be on the field with America's team. Want to show your Texas and team pride too? You can. By purchasing your own Stetson, you can look just like how the flag guys do on field at every home game. Stetson hats, the official crown of all self-respecting Cowboys and your favorite football team. Get yours today in the Stadium Pro Shop or at Stetson.com.
Ready? Okay. Give me an S. S. Give me an O. O. Give me an S. S. Give me an O. O. What's that spell?
So.
Are we gonna win?
Not if we play like we cheered.
Just okay is not okay. Whether it's cheerleaders or your wireless network, AT&T is America's best wireless network. Best network based on GWS One score September 2019.
Essilor is a proud sponsor of the Dallas Cowboys, helping fans see more and do more with our best vision solutions. Our lens technologies reveal a world more beautiful than you can imagine. For a limited time, get the Essilor Next Gen offer. When you buy the latest generation of Transitions lenses with select Essilor lenses, you can choose a second pair of clear lenses for free with qualifying frame purchases. Restrictions apply. Find a participating eye care professional by visiting EssilorUSA.com. Essilor. See more, do more.
So, you're shopping, and that's when you see it. Aisle 23. Dr. Pepper stacked from top to bottom as far as the eye can see. The phrase too good to be true comes to mind, yet there it is. A rich, delicious Dr. Pepper paradise. Wait, did that can of Dr. Pepper just open itself for you? They all are. As if to say, so nice to treat you. And even though it feels weird to talk to a can, you pick one up and say, it's so nice to be treated. Dr. Pepper, so nice to treat you.
Breaking Cowboys news.
There's your music, Nick.
I like it.
Sounds like an air raid.
Welcome back inside the SWBC Mortgage Studio. It's been about 18 hours since the Cowboys announced Jason Garrett would not have his contract renewed. And now we've got reports that Mike McCarthy might be on his way to replace him. And Mick left us with a wonderful tease a few minutes ago. If it is Mike McCarthy as the Cowboys' 9th head coach in franchise history, what's the bar for him?
Yeah, what is it for success? What does he have to do?
I think we know.
I mean, yeah, it's the same as it was.
So what do you do if you don't?
Get a new guy. I mean,
so every year you don't go to the NFC title game, you're changing?
To some degree, this is a clean slate, right? Like, Mike McCarthy doesn't have to get to the Super Bowl next year to keep his job.
Get to the playoffs. What about that? What if he goes 8-8? Have you seen that? What if he goes 8-8?
So do you realize that in Garrett's 9 years, 8 times he either went to the playoffs or had a chance in game 15 or 16 to go to the playoffs? 8 of the 9.
Yeah, but how many did he get there?
I just said
3.
So the next guy better be that close, if not better.
Well, McCarthy went 8 years in a row.
But that's not here.
I know, but
okay.
Yeah, I mean,
that sounds really great. Like, it's a great statistic until you remember that he lost most of those games.
I got it.
Yeah, and the fact that those teams were 8-8 and lost in the last game of the year to win the NFC East, which meant that 9-7 I think won the NFC East. That just goes to show how bad it really is. I mean, when you're getting to play the same 6 teams that are all bad, that just kind of goes to show just how average or below average your team really was.
I think one of them went 10-6. I can't remember which one.
Well, they were 8-8, and I thought they had a chance every year.
But the team that they played
9-7.
was 8. They were 9-7, and if you tied them,
you tied them,
then you were going to go.
Right.
That's a point I thought of earlier in the show. I pulled up the Packers' playoff history. And something that jumps out to me is, like, when he gets there or when he has gotten there, his team is successful more often than not. And when I say successful, I mean they win a game at least.
Yeah.
Like 2010, obviously, this storied run through the playoffs as a wild card. They won games in 2012. They obviously 2014, 2015, and 2016. You're winning at least one, if not multiple games. Ironically, I think they went one and done 3 times. Once was a 2013 team where, Rodgers broke his collarbone and they barely got in. 2009, early in Rodgers' career, they lost in overtime. They went one and done with, like, arguably the best team of the modern era. The 15-1 Packers lost to the Giants in their first playoff game. That sucks. But way more often than not, when he has gotten to the playoffs, they've managed to put a run together. So that's intriguing at the very least.
Here's how I kind of define it, the expectations. One of the frustrating parts, I know they haven't been to a Super Bowl or won a Super Bowl in 25 years, but they also haven't. They've been on this roller coaster track of getting in and not getting in, and getting in and not getting in. And there are certain teams, I mean, you look around the NFC, it's hard to win a Super Bowl. The Eagles have won. The Saints have won. Sean Payton, all those years, won. Mike McCarthy and Aaron Rodgers, all those years, won. Seahawks, won. But those teams, you point to those teams, and they're usually in the field. They at least give themselves a shot. And to me, that's got to be the expectation that every year we're in. And watching these games over the weekend, it's a crapshoot.
Right.
These are all close games. There's not much difference between these teams. But that's got to be the more of the consistency that I think the Joneses are looking for. That's just my opinion.
Yeah.
I mean,
I like that point a lot.
And there have been different reasons for why not, obviously, Mick. I mean, 2015, they lost their quarterback. 2017, you lost Zeke for 6 games. There have been reasons for it. It's not all on Jason Garrett, but...
What year was it in Washington? 12 or 13 when Romo was playing with a back that needed surgery?
13.
Final game of the year?
Well, so 12 they lost the last game of the year to the Redskins.
11, 12, and
13 he hurt his back in the second to last game and then couldn't play the last game.
Kyle Orton played against Philly. That's right.
Kyle Orton game.
So, some bad luck for Jason Garrett during this run. There's no question about it, but that's the expectation. They just got to give themselves more chances at this.
There's been bad luck, obviously, but, for 9 years, I mean...
I was going to say, there has been bad luck, but a decade-long trend. Like I said,
he's had a long time in the chair. There's no doubt about it.
2013, the Packers had a similar thing happen to them. They didn't have Rodgers for the meat of the season. They actually came down here with Matt Flynn and overcame a 26-3 deficit to keep their playoff hopes alive. and wound up winning the division on the last day of the year. So there has been some bad luck, but you can overcome bad luck a lot of times too. I am intrigued.
Darn Orton throwing that interception on the last possession.
I'm intrigued looking at this. Like, okay, 07 they make it with Favre. 08 they don't make it in Rodgers' first year. And then from 9 to 16, to your point, like they're in it every year. Of course, Aaron Rodgers is a big part of that, but that's pretty shocking consistency. And these weren't all world beater teams, by the way.
Yeah, and the one year they didn't. They had a rookie quarterback took over for Rodgers.
Yep.
And here,
the kid from UCLA.
Yeah, I know you're talking about Hanley or Hundley.
Brett Hundley.
The thing is you can say, well, no, they've had the best quarterback or one of the best quarterbacks in that time, but who have been the running backs? I mean, I don't know. I mean, there's been a bunch of them, Lacey and you know, different. I can't even think of all those guys.
We got a couple good years out of Lacey. Obviously, Jones and Jamal Williams have been there for the last 2 or 3 years.
Ty Montgomery at one point.
I'd have to. I mean, I want to say Amon Green, but he did not play for Mike McCarthy.
It's kind of like the Brady. It's kind of like the Brady years with the Pats. You got Brady, and then it's kind of a rotating cast.
So if Mike McCarthy should be a good enough coach to all right, because all the really good coaches say, all right, what do I have, and I can work with that. So no, he doesn't have the best quarterback in the NFL with the best arm. He's got a young quarterback who can he can win some games. He's going to be as competitive as you'll get. He's not the most accurate of quarterbacks, but he can throw the ball around, evident by those yards. But he does have one of the best running backs in the NFL, and so maybe from that standpoint, that the game will be a little bit different. It's not he doesn't have Rodgers, but he has Zeke, and that's something better than he's ever had in those teams.
I think that's an amazing point, Rob. Is obviously the goal is to reach your first conference title game and win your first Super Bowl in forever. But barring that, be in the conversation every year. And that's been the maddening thing about the Cowboys. The maddening thing is that they haven't won a Super Bowl since '95, but on top of that, they can't sustain success to save their lives.
And I will say this.
It's weirdly formulaic at this point. It's playoffs, heartbreak / disappointment, playoffs, disappointment, going back for longer than I care to recount.
I'll say this, though. It is hard to do. Because how many teams that go to the Super Bowl one year don't even make it? The Rams are the latest team, but there's been a lot of teams like that. It does speak to the parity.
I mean,
so it's not easy to do.
Half the playoff field turns over every year.
So why didn't Bill be able to accomplish that?
Bill Parcells
here with the Cowboys.
Well,
he was starting kind of from scratch in 2003, I think,
and was the greatest coaching job ever.
Arguably, yes.
And then what happened in 2004?
He lost his quarterback.
He fired. Cut the quarterback.
And
went with a 40-year-old, and they weren't as good. And in the next 2 years, they were 9-7. But they caught a hot streak there. They were 10-6, I believe, with Romo.
I think they were 9-7. Both those years with Bledsoe / Romo.
9-7 made the playoffs, and Romo dropped the snap. That's what happened.
So the last time they went to playoffs back-to-back years?
06 and 07.
06, 07.
And how about this stat, which won't be changed next year, and it can't be changed until 2 years. Not since Chan Gailey. Chan Gailey's the last coach that has led the Cowboys to back-to-back playoffs.
10-6,
and he got fired for it, didn't he?
10-6 and 8-8.
Yeah, and he got fired.
Yeah.
But no coach in Cowboys history has gone to the playoffs 2 straight years. Parcells couldn't do it, and then when Parcells did it in 06, Wade came in the next year. So they have gone to back-to-back years.
Well, Jimmy did it.
Since Chan Gailey.
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought you said in Cowboys history, and then obviously Tom Landry.
Yeah, not the same coach has done it in back-to-back years, which is really impressive when you look at that stat of McCarthy and those teams.
That stat just blew my mind.
And Chan basically got fired because he couldn't win a playoff game. One year he gets wiped out by Minnesota, and then the next year.
Well, the first year was Arizona.
Arizona was the first year.
Okay, here's a question that falls in line with that. If this deal is signed and finalized, how long do you think it would be?
How long is the contract?
Like coaching contracts, head coaching contracts are typically 5 years, right?
That's what Jason had, right? A couple different times.
How long? I mean,
4 or 5 years.
I'm sitting here. You might be right. And Mike McCarthy's arguably the most desirable candidate on the market. He might have demanded that. But the reason I ask in the first place is this roster seems like it's set up now. You know what I mean? It's
yes,
2 to 3 year window. I think you've got a maximum of 4 years that you can expect this offensive line to play at this level, and it's probably less than that. You've got a maximum of like 4 years where Zeke is really in his prime. DeMarcus Lawrence will be 30 in 3-4 years. All of that type of stuff. And so is this a situation where it's like, we're going to give you 3 years? 'Cause, like, we're not building from scratch. The team is here.
That was my point.
Yeah, exactly. Well, and like I said, I don't know if McCarthy would be willing to sign a shorter deal, but that's the vibe I get is like most teams, when you sign a new coach, you're like, this is the start of an entirely new era. We're going to do all this new stuff. Like here, it's just like the team's here. Let's get over the hump. And I wonder if that affects their expectations for when he does it and how quickly, et cetera.
That's a great point, Dave. I mean, I feel like the team is here offensively, but defensively, there's a lot of questions. There's a lot of guys up for free agency, potentially.
It's going to be a new look defense.
Who's his coordinator?
Yeah, that's going to be an important hire for whoever is the head coach, if indeed it's
But wouldn't
Did the Packers ever go 3-4?
Yeah, they were 3-4 for a long time with Dom Capers.
But they don't have 3-4 defensive ends here.
They do not.
Not even close.
They do, but he's been suspended for like 2 years.
Who?
Randy Gregory.
He's not a 3-4.
He's not a 3-4.
He totally could play 3-4 end. I've been saying
as
it
a
forever.
linebacker, I mean 3.
Oh,
No, I'm sorry.
3-4. No, he's talking about the 3-4 end.
I'm talking about 3-4 edge rusher. You're right. They don't have any true 3-4 ends.
Crawford could play it.
Yes.
And that's about it. Malik. Now, here's the thing about Malik.
Free agent.
I know he's a free agent. But he was, at one point, he was first on the team in quarterback pressures. Now, I think he finished second or third. But he's right up there, 25, 27. That's a lot of pressures for a guy that's playing the 1 and 3. So getting up the field and holding your blocks and all that stuff at the same time, he might be able to do that. Now, does he want that as a free agent, or does he want to just say, I'm going to take the money for a position that I'm good at, you know? But I'm just saying, do they have the 3-4 rushers?
Right.
Now, that you're right about it, Randy Gregory. That's perfect for him. But, I mean...
Yeah,
I mean, I was mainly kidding, yeah. And I couldn't imagine, even if that was in the long-term plans.
Jalen Smith?
I can't imagine them making that.
Jalen Smith? Think about it. 3-4 rusher?
Yeah, but that guy's got to cover.
Well, but he's covering now, kind of. At the line.
And who do they pick on when he's covering?
Does he have the length? Randy Gregory's fingertips touch the ground.
I don't know.
I don't know if Jalen's got the length to do that.
That might be what I want him to do.
But to your point,
just swipe up there.
What's he done? Probably the best is go forward.
Yeah.
And make plays forward. He has a knack for it. He's savvy doing it. Now, I guess it must be stated, we don't know
we're moving way on here.
Yeah, we don't know the status of Rod
We're
Marinelli.
already changing the formation.
Yeah. Chris Richard, who interviewed with the Giants for their head coaching vacancy last week. But, yeah, we'll see what happens. There's a lot of questions to be answered still.
Would you agree with me? Like, this is not a defense that needs to be, like, utterly rebuilt. Like, the pieces are in place for them to be good. Maybe not, like, absolutely elite. But, if you're taking over a job, you're like, okay, you have a Pro Bowl caliber edge rusher. You've got 2 really, really good linebackers, assuming one of them comes back healthy. I mean, that's 2 levels of your defense.
I can't agree with you there.
Questions about your secondary.
Because they're not even under contract. Those guys aren't under contract.
The 3 I listed.
Well, the 3 you listed, but one of them hasn't proven that he's ready to play yet. In Leighton, and that scares me because he's got a neck injury. And Jalen Smith, I don't know. I think he took a step back. Obviously he did.
There's no think about it.
He took a step back. So I got questions with Tyrone Crawford. I got questions with Malik, Robert Quinn, Byron Jones. Cheeto got benched later in the year. Jeff Heath's a free agent, but you needed an upgrade anyways.
There's questions all over.
Woods did not take the next step. Jordan Lewis will. Jordan Lewis is a good player. I think they should try to keep him for sure. But
see, and what we're talking about is talking pass rush and pass defense, and they can't stop the run.
I didn't say that there wasn't any work to do. I just think there's more pieces in place than you would expect
stop the run
when you are replacing a coach. They can't.
Think about why they lost some of those games. They couldn't stop the run.
Shoot, yeah. Which we don't know what's going to happen. Maybe they'll actually be willing to invest in defensive tackles this offseason.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
Another
a free agent.
God, it's so
we're
and
late.
Do you change the concept of your defense, like the philosophy of get up the field, get up the field. And when they were getting up the field, the other team was going down the field the other way.
A really interesting point. I know we're running out of time, but, there's just following people that are familiar with the Packers on Twitter. Bob Sturm is a lifelong Packers fan, Kevin Turner, etc. It'd be an interesting dynamic if McCarthy is the coach in terms of his dynamic with the front office, because Green Bay couldn't be less like this. Like Ted Thompson, when he was there, like he's in the shadows. He doesn't talk to the media. He does his own thing. He doesn't necessarily even interact with the coach on a regular basis. We all know it's the opposite here. Like, it's much more involved. The general manager is the most public figure in the franchise. I'm going to be interested to see. I think it's going to be a huge departure from what he was used to in Green Bay, hopefully for the better.
Well, he understands. He had other jobs.
No, absolutely.
He had other interviews, right?
Yeah.
So whatever, the platform is, he understands going in.
So many questions to be answered. We hope to get answers.
I could do another hour if you want to.
We really could. Really could. But I think we're out of time.
I can go to 12:20.
Oh, you got stuff to do. That's fair.
That's fair.
That's all right. We'll call it a day.
We got reports that Mike McCarthy might be the next head coach of the Dallas Cowboys. Not confirmed yet. Stay tuned to DallasCowboys.com for all of the late breaking news. We'll let you know if we hear anything official.
Shows tomorrow and Wednesday?
Yes.
That's right.
I believe Talking Cowboys will be back at 11.
Okay, and those guys are back on
Wednesday.
Wednesday.
The break is 11, and Hanging with the Boys will be at 12 that day. So,
and the draft show starts on Thursday. Not that really has anything to do with this.
Okay, Brian.
I'm excited. What do you want to say?
Who's on with you?
It'll be me, Kevin Turner, Jeff Kavanaugh. If you listen to our stuff, you're probably familiar with them. And my guy, Kyle Yeoman, who's in the back right now, joining us this year. Excited about that. Hey, there he is.
Right,
yeah,
look at there.
Yeah, buddy.
I thought that was a guy back there. It's Romo.
Yeah, little Romo face.
Yeah, it'll be good.
I thought it was Caden for a second. He wished.
Caden's always in here.
We got to get Caden in front of the camera.
Yeah.
No.
All right.
Not today. Thanks, guys. Thank y'all for joining us. Stay tuned. Stay tuned for all breaking news. Dallas Cowboys. Talk at you later.
This has been a production of DallasCowboys.com and the Dallas Cowboys Football Club.
How about them Cowboys?